So,
Motion adjourned, you all set?
I'm ready to go, but I want to go through this information and then maybe we can talk about it on the 11th. But I wanted to share it with you all.
Did we have what we took in this year?
I don't have that in this particular package, Andy, but what I did is I based all the information.
Well, before we start.
Those you already have, Amber, I gave you bigger ones so you could see. Oh, gotcha, awesome.
Right, before we start talking about next year's rates, I just wanted to see where we ended up
And
this
then
year.
can you give one set to that gentleman in the back too, please? Thank you. These, I think you were looking for information from last week.
I was.
The first table that's got the orange column and the two green columns is the one I had last week.
Yep.
It's a portion of it, it only goes through 2035.
Yep,
They already have those, these were just extras in case people came in, Don, thank you.
thank you.
So you had that information. The debt service continues on, but I just wanted to have this fresh so people could take a look at it. So, we talked about this last week, but the debt service and then the expense for the department for fiscal '27 is highlighted in the orange column. And I think the thing that's important to recognize there is two things. Number one, the annual cost per meter at the flat rates of 26,827, I believe is what that is. 2537, I'm sorry, $2,537, which also results in an average quarterly cost per meter of $634. And that's just straight math. It's like we were before, everybody paid the same amount regardless of how much water you use. So that's kind of the high end of what we're up against for, for ratepayers and for costs. And it's just for information because obviously we're not doing it that way. It's just so people understand. And then what I did is I looked at three different options. The first option that I looked at was doing all of the costs. So I'm sorry, it says option one here on the column. The information in yellow is from fiscal '26, and it's just for comparison purposes, so you can look at the costs and the different thresholds for not only the rates, but then also the usage, the FY '26 annual usage that we talked about, which is highlighted in yellow, right next to the red reduced estimated usage. So one of the things that's important about the rates this year, just like we spoke about last year, was that we've got a reduction in the amount of water that's being used, as well as an increase in the amount of debt service. And those are the two main drivers for the budget for the coming year. So what I did was just look at what number would we need to have to cover the costs of the budget for the year by only increasing the base rate, right, for tier 1 customers. What I left is the charges per gallon for tier 2, 3, 4, and 5 that are highlighted in yellow in that smaller box the same. You can see the 3 yellow boxes correspond to the 3 green. It's different years. You guys following that? Amber, you following that?
Yeah.
Okay, so this just tells you that our rate would need to go, our flat rate, with no other changes either to the tier thresholds or to the cost per gallon, would need to go to $475 per household under this scenario. And then tier 2 users would pay the $39.65. They would pay based on their usage, but the only thing that would change in option 1 is the $475 versus $325.
And does that number come from your debt service divided straight out by your?
Well, it's debt service plus usage,
Okay.
because what I did is I went through and I calculated usage for each quarter for each tier.
And that's just your flat divided division per the water users, the 600, right, or whatever?
Yeah, whatever the first one was just a flat rate, Amber. This is based on using the tiers to generate revenue,
Yeah.
but the base rate would have to be $475 in order to make it up. And you can see when you look at the very top right-hand column there for option 1, what that does is generate 1.140,000 revenue just from the flat rates. Last year we had 765,000. So effectively we're capturing all of the increase in just the flat rates. And the other thing that's important there is that also all of these options include the $150,000 transfer from retained earnings.
Yeah.
So it takes down the number that we have to hit in terms of the 1.5 million that's Jake's budget by that amount. In this particular case, in option one, puts all of those costs basically on the flat rate user, okay? Option two, what that does is it looks at the increases of about 2 pennies, 0.18 pennies, 2 pennies to each one of the tiers. So for example, tier 2 goes from a nickel, 0.58, so almost 6 cents, right, a little under 6 cents, to to 7.5 cents. So it just increases each one of the gallon amounts, and it also makes an increase of $100 per quarter in the flat rates. And that basis, if you look up on the estimated usage column up here, that's based on the reduced usage too. So it's not gonna come back and haunt us where we based it on the old numbers that were 1,350,000, 70, and 125 that we used in 26. So what I did is I reduced it based on the numbers that we had for all of the billing last year.
So you don't short yourself.
Yeah, so we don't short ourselves, because that would not be the right thing to do. And what that does is it also generates the 1.5 million roughly that we need for the budget. Does anybody have any questions on that? Does it seem to make sense? You guys both deal with numbers, so I'm hoping Donna shakes her head at least a little.
Yes, all right, yeah.
So then,
You keep referring to the 150,000 retained earnings. What do we have in retained earnings right now?
it was over 200, yeah.
2 something, it's 2 something.
So last year,
Right, but that would be critical because we don't know when we're gonna have to do the patch on Route 9.
so that would be, Route 9 Andy will deal with, we'll delay it,
Well,
we'll tell them we're gonna deal
We're
with
gonna have to
that.
do it at some point in time, so we can't short ourselves.
And we're
It's
not
gonna be
shorting.
60, 70, 80,000.
And we're not shorting ourselves, we don't know what the real number is yet because we haven't figured it out, but we're not shorting ourselves because the 100,000 that we applied for, or that we accepted at the special town meeting last year isn't get
Correct.
back into, I'm not explaining it
It's not
properly
gonna be available until we
until the fall.
balance the books.
Till we
Is
close the
that,
books, yeah. So in essence, we
is
anticipate
that the
that.
same time as when we get free cash certified? Is it just the same
Process.
paperwork?
Yeah.
Same,
So that 100 goes back in Indian if they.
right, but it's just, we're gonna
Yep.
eat most of our retained earnings without having any
Yep.
reserve, without knowing what it's gonna cost.
And retained earnings are there to
And
help
we're gonna have to
mitigate
do
rate
it.
increases, and you know what, I
Right, but we
push back
still,
on Route 9.
we still have to make sure that we have enough money to do the
Right.
patch, or we,
We have to make sure we have enough money to pay the bills first, and then also do that work on Route 9, yes. But I would delay that if we had to. I don't believe we're going to, based on what I just said about the retained earnings. I think we're okay. The third option was I looked at an increase to the base rate, but that is only $400, from $325 to $400 instead of $425 or $475 like it was on the previous two options. And then what I did is also made the same roughly 2 penny change to each one of the tiers. However, when you look at this green box up here for
That's your
fiscal.
old rate, your
Though,
old usage.
well, it's not exactly the old Amber, because if you look, the
Oh,
old
the
was
22.
100, 350, 70, and 135.
Okay.
So what's happening is the highest tiers are definitely using less, and there's fewer of them. And then by calculating usage from fiscal 26, I feel comfortable that the $1 million number that we had been $1 million gallon, number that we had been previously using will work itself out based on averages from all 4 of the quarters last year. So if we do that, we then don't kick up the base rate as high, and we make an increase in the base rate, and then we make an increase in each of the tiers of about 2 pennies.
so I see that brings the base amount down to 1,000 cubic feet.
Oh, yeah, thank you, and I want to mention that.
What percentage of the users would be at base rate at that point? 'Cause right
About
now,
200, about 200, a little over 200. Because what happened is, Andy.
Hang on a second.
Yep,
When it was 900,
yep,
we were at 38%.
we're about the same, a little bit more.
It'd be a lot more.
No, it wouldn't, Andy.
Because it's
usage is
12
down, you
right.
can't compare the two. Usage
At
is down.
1,200 cubic feet for the last billing,
Mhm.
we had over 400 of the users. We had about 67% of the users were at base rate.
No, it's
So-
around 300 and something, it's about 50-something%. I looked at every single one of those, I don't have it.
The
with me.
last quarter,
Yep.
there was 406 at base rate or below. It was over 2/3. So by going down to 1,000 cubic feet, what percentage of the users would be paying flat rate?
I'll have to calculate that, Andy, to see, but so all of the users would pay flat rate. What it works out to be is
Just flat rate.
it'd be about 40% of the people in town, roughly a third of the 600 would be the lowest rates. And then the other 2/3, or roughly 400 people in town, would pay a increase would pay higher than the base rate because they use more water. And that's based on averages, Andy, it's not based on one quarter over the other,
No,
because the
every
last
quarter,
quarter.
every quarter.
Yeah, it's an average.
Right.
So I made an average of each one of the quarters, and I don't think I have the usage from the last one with me. Shit, I don't. So, based on this analysis and these three options, I think we have to make an adjustment in the base rate. There is no way that we can stay 400 from 3 1/4. Yeah, 406 is the people, yeah, in other quarters it's different. So what that'll do is that'll transfer, about a third of the people will be paying the base rate only, maybe a little bit more than that. And the remaining 50 to 60-something% will be paying higher than the base rate. And we can't do any more than that, in my opinion, on the, just the tier 1, because the amount of money that we generate on tiers 2, 3, 4, and 5 would have to be like triple the rates that we're showing now, or more per gallon, in order to generate the revenue. The real revenue is generated in the base rate. Right, and the other thing about that I think is important is if you take the base rate that I was talking about for option 3, and you look at just per quarter, it's $1,600. The amount of debt that we have per meter, going back to the first spreadsheet, is $2,400, roughly, 23, 27. So basically, we're subsidizing all of the tier 1 users somewhere between $600 and $800, depending on exactly what they use, based on everybody else having to pay the difference. So to me, to go down any less than $1,600 is not fair to people. The minimum users have to pay more, which is unfortunate, but in my opinion, going any less than 400 is not fair. We're putting the burden on everyone else in town.
How many
the
gallons
businesses.
is 1,000 cubic feet? That'd be 728?
7480. 100 cubic feet is 7.48 gallons, so 1,000 cubic feet is 7,480 gallons.
That's 339, the last billing.
I don't know what you're looking at, so I can't tell you.
If it's 774 at 1,000 cubic feet, 339 people would be at base rate for the last.
Yeah, and I averaged them for all 4.
Right.
So it's
Well, I'm
around
just saying,
40 to
it's-
50% of the people will
That's
be paying
over
the base.
50%. It's 52% at 1,000.
If you go any lower than that, Andy, to get an arbitrary percentage down, in my opinion, we're not being fair to the other 50 or 60% of people in town, because we're paying the costs of everyone's debt that we shouldn't be, unfortunately, in my opinion.
It would,
It's arbitrary. You can't just say, based on a number, that those people all can't afford it. There's probably a portion of people within that 50% or 40% that can't afford it, but not necessarily everybody.
we'll be getting that, we'll be getting
What do you do
that,
for them?
we'll be getting that from the,
Probably a handful.
Next year, not this year.
we'll be getting that from the rate study, but, because they had concerns at 325 based upon the number of elderly and fixed income.
But that hasn't been correlated to locations, Andy, or people on the water system. There's a whole bunch of work that needs to be
Correct.
done there before you can just say that there's elderly people
Correct,
in
but
town.
now
How
there's-
many of them are on wells? We
There's
don't
gonna
know.
be, well, I'm just talking about water, just water.
So we don't know what that percentage is. They haven't looked at it.
Exactly.
We're gonna have over 50% of people at base rate and then add 1,000 cubic feet.
You're looking at one quarter, Andy.
I'm looking at them all. So at 1,000 cubic feet, we're gonna have over 50% at base rate, and then everybody else will be above that.
And I
What
want
we
to
are-
point that out too, though. I also changed tier 2 down from 1,200 to 1,000, and I changed tier 3 the limit down from 3,000 to 2,500. Just adjust the tiers
Just
a
for
little bit.
discussion purposes, at $400 for 1,000 cubic feet, what does that work out to be per gallon?
7.5 cents, Andy.
So you pay the same in tier 1 and tier 2, would be the
No.
same rate?
Nope. You don't. You pay
You
tier,
just said it was 7.5.
well, tier 1 is a fixed flat rate. It's not a per gallon rate because a lot of
Correct.
people use less, so their
Correct,
rates are
but it's
different.
still per gallon, so
Yeah.
your tier 1 and tier 2, you wouldn't change the rate.
I changed the threshold from 1,200 to 1,000, and when you take the 400 and divide it by 600 people, it works out to $33.
Right,
That's
you're
just
not
math.
changing the rate per gallon, is what I'm saying.
Yes, I'm changing the threshold that it starts with then, which therefore has an effect on the rate per gallon, Andy. If I left it at 1,200, it would be, lower,
So tier 1 is
1,000.
0.075 per gallon for the first 1,000,
No,
for the first 1,000
no,
cubic
Andy,
feet.
It's a
and then
flat
from there-
divide, no, it has nothing to do with
And
usage
then
for
from there,
tier
it's
1.
another
It
0.75.
has nothing to
Okay.
do with 0.75, and you're wrong about that. It has nothing to do with it. It's the flat rate times the number of users, period.
Right, but it's the amount per gallon, I got you, all right.
It's just wrong. You can think what you want. That's not what it is, though.
Just doing math, that's all.
But not everybody uses the same gallons, Andy, so you
Correct.
can't say that it's a certain rate. Whereas in the others, it is a rate that people pay per gallon. That's a flat rate,
So,
period.
if the first rate is 0.75 per gallon, is the top rate 50% higher than that? Per the state guideline?
Depends on usage, Andy. Depends. We can go up on the rates more, Andy, absolutely, but in my opinion, we can't go any lower than 400 because we're not paying the right
The
amount.
guidelines from the state, each tier should be increased,
They are increased, Andy.
and the top tier should be 50% higher than the bottom tier.
I don't know what that is, and I'd have to read it to have that agreement with you, because I'm not gonna agree to that without having it in front of me to look at it, so.
Right on the website.
Go ahead. I don't disagree with you, I'm just saying, I'm not gonna agree when I don't have.
So these are just for discussion purposes this evening,
For
we're not voting on
tonight,
it.
I don't have any motions tonight to change the rates, no?
All right, we'll see how the rates, study is going. She was gonna get us some preliminary numbers.
I don't know how she does, she doesn't have information yet, Andy, so we can bring this back.
Information
No, she
the other day when she was here.
No, she didn't. She doesn't have all the usage information in order to adjust tiers. She doesn't have it yet because I've been working on it to make this information. So
Right,
She
she
doesn't have any.
has information available from past history.
Okay. All right. Which wouldn't help her make tier changes, so.
Who's she?
The woman from Recap that came in.
Recap that came in, but she does rate studies, so she does.
Once you go over, it's just like.
So she took our information and she's taken our base versus the median income, and there's a formula that they do with the state.
But you can't do that if you don't know where the people live, Andy, and there's no way to correlate that stuff. It doesn't happen.
When did they come in the first time? Probably 6 months ago, 8 months ago? Yeah, something like that. They were doing the Westbrook rate study.
Okay.
And they came available to us, and we passed on, how many dates did we have? They kept getting canceled, it was snowstorms,
Yeah,
it was,
it was a tough winter for us.
Christmas and whatnot, so.
Well, you're not gonna do this, you're not gonna do this until the 18th at the earliest.
I can't be here.
He's not here.
No, we could do it at the 11th, at the earliest. I won't be here the 18th, so we wouldn't be able to do it till the 31st or whatever that next date is.
It'll be the 31st.
No, the first.
But you, it doesn't matter, I mean, and we don't need them before the next, I mean, you
Billing
need them before
anyways.
the end of
Yeah.
the year, so, yeah.
Yep. So we can,
We gotta put the information out, that's all.
yep. So we can table this now till the 11th? Is
Well,
that-
we table it, but one of the things we need to do is we need to come up with a rate that we can keep steady for the lower tier so that the, people that are eligible for the, utilities assistance from the state.
You'll see it.
I haven't seen the forms, but I believe it needs to be steady for 3 years before they're eligible for it. So as, of course, right now, the tiers keep going up because we're trying to see where we're at.
We're trying to catch up with the debt service is what it comes
Right,
down
but
to.
we have to have a steady,
Yep.
lower tier, or the base rate that the low-income people are paying, or the fixed-income people are paying.
For
so
3
they're
years in a row.
eligible, for the, are you familiar with that program? Is it, I didn't know
Fuel assistance?
what they offered. I know you can get fuel assistance, you get assistance with your other utilities, water included. I didn't know whether it was a income-based or whether they,
It is income-based.
Oh, it is income-based, but
Is
I
it-
don't know what you're talking about.
what
with
is the
fee.
percentage that they would pay? Is it based upon your income, or would they pay 50% of your bill, 40% of your bill?
No, so
20% of your
it's based on
income,
your
et
income,
cetera,
what
et
you
cetera?
get. So like my grandmother gets fuel assistance, but she doesn't qualify for water or electric assistance. She only qualifies for oil assistance, and it's based on her income, and then you have to, it's a huge survey of what you use for service. So I don't know if they would contribute to water, because they told her no, and she's in this town. They said they would only contribute to her oil. That was it.
The aid for Donnie Berthium and Peter Durant,
Yep,
they were talking about some of the other towns that had the fuel assistance and utilities
Yep.
assistance, where if you had a water and sewer bill like Northbrook Fuel Dispenser, there was income eligibility requirements.
and I think that's what it is, they have to have both, because I read it, and I believe you have to be on water and sewer, but I can double check for you, because I do our application every year, but they denied, they said it was only fuel assistance she qualified for.
So it'd be two things, it'd be whether you qualified economically
Correct.
and whether or not we had both, would be
Correct.
part of it.
Yep,
I know when we looked into the tax program, the assessors, we raised the limits. And it was something ridiculous, like 7 people in town qualified, and even when we raised all the limits, it was like 14 people in
oh,
town.
it's crazy, like,
If you look at
insane.
how many assets you can have, what your income is, and what your bills are, you would wonder how in the world you'd have a house in the first place.
You have to submit a lot too, like
Yeah.
I had to submit literally half her life and information to get there, because it also depends on people if they have social security, if they get pensions, it's a big process, but when we did hers, they only gave her fuel assistance only. That
And
was
if
it.
if you did that, then you'd have to, it would only be a small, like you said, for fuel assistance, it's a dozen or so.
I have no idea what it would mean to somebody, you know, if they were paying $300 a quarter, $400 a quarter, $500 a quarter, what would the utilities assistance contribute? Would they
don't
contribute
contribute.
$50 or $100 or?
I can give you rough ideas, so my grandmother makes roughly, if we add up her pensions and her social security.
Don't put that information out, we're being
Just
recorded.
roughly, let's say she makes under 20,000.
Okay.
They only gave her $600 for the whole entire fuel assistance. You know how much oil is?
Yeah.
Yeah, that filled up her tank one time.
She's
That
not
was
even
it.
filled it
For a
back
full
up.
year, and the year runs for fuel assistance, it runs from October to April, and that is it. And if you do not use your assistance in April, you lose it. It's gone. So they only gave her $676 for fuel, and that was it. That doesn't fill up your tank. So I don't even know how much more they would give on top of that for, it's very little.
And the other part of those rates too, Andy, is if we look at the $400 threshold, we can keep that fairly consistent, because that covers, our debt service doesn't change 350 grand like it did this year. That's the big hit that we're taking, is we went up 350 plus thousand in debt service this year.
Well, you can keep the same base rate and play around with that cubic foot.
And the pennies per gallon.
Right, but that's what I was saying before. If we had the $300 for 9, hang on, listen,
Yep, I will.
listen,
It's still
and
not
then,
enough though.
hang on,
I've
listen
done
and
the math, it's not
comment.
enough.
If you have $300 for 900 cubic feet, it's 4.4 cents a gallon. If you reduce that to 800 cubic feet for $300, it becomes 5.1 cents a gallon. If you reduce it to 700 cubic feet, you can actually bring it all the way down to 100 cubic feet for $300, and then you go up from there. So it makes all the rest of the tiers pennies go up a little bit, but you keep the same base. So if you wanted a $400 base at 1,000 cubic feet and we didn't have enough next year, you wouldn't have to change the $400. You could actually go to
I agree with that.
to 900. Now, if we go to next year and you say, okay, do we want to lower it to 900? Or do you want to take the 400 and make it 375? You can play around with that. What I'm looking for is to get a base amount established so that anybody that would be eligible for the utilities assistance could get there.
It's $400 a gallon.
It doesn't have to be, it could be $200 for having water and you pay for every gallon you use in there. Now, looking at different communities and how they do it, looking at different communities that have water usage, what was the big community I was looking at, when we were looking at the amount of money that was given to us by, the emerging contaminants.
Yep.
Some of those districts that receive funding are 100% tax, because 93% of the taxpayers are on water. So why not just have it as a
So they
tax?
haven't set up an enterprise fund.
Well, you wouldn't have to if 93% of your users.
Qualify.
Right, but if 93% of your users have that. Okay, now,
From
I brought it up before, I'll bring it up again, see if we're doing
It's
budgets.
still such a.
Why don't we have the municipal buildings contribute to the water enterprise fund and solid waste enterprise fund? Well, I mean, it's an option to get a little bit more funding. We have a little bit
In the town budget.
of room on the budget right now. They were talking in the $40,000 to $50,000 range that is available right now in the levy that they weren't gonna use. Now, having said that, that's at a $75,000 new growth. We won't know new growth is until probably December. I would like to look at, instead of having new growth be as of June 30th, I'd like to have this December 31st where we had it before, so that hopefully you get into this time of year, the new growth number would be a little bit more reasonable. Last year, we figured 75,000 and it turned out to be 126. We left 51,000 on the table. When you get into a year like this, where we're down to the penny, knowing what new growth is, whether it's 50, 75, or 110, it's a big difference when you're trying to scratch
Because
everything
we got
off.
the 50,000 in free cash at the end of the year, but we could have increased the levy by that amount, which would then corresponded.
You get it the next year.
But only in free cash, you don't get it in levy.
No, you do. You look at your budget, because I asked about that years ago, because we don't want to lose that.
Yeah, that's what I was looking to see.
So here is fiscal year '24. Okay, this was your new growth 94,000.
Okay.
So if you look at this number right here,
It became the actual, is basically
Correct.
what you're saying. Okay.
so you take out debt exclusion, don't worry about debt exclusion. But if you take that without the debt exclusion, that becomes that number. So if you look at this number without debt exclusion, it becomes that number. So we're not losing new growth. It comes back next year on the levy, but you're losing it this year. So right now, we're looking at new growth of 65,000.
Okay.
So people are gonna catch window this.
Last year it was 190, you put out 73, you put out 94, you put out 133. No, they're talking 65, that's what they're working on. But we don't know what the new growth is. Sure. It could be 100, it could be 140, it could be 160. No,
It's gotta do more than that.
no, they know, when they give the estimate, they already know the building permits they're looking at.
Okay.
I mean, you look at just the houses down on South Pond, without looking at anything else, just the houses on South Pond, you've got that.
I didn't know how many, I don't see it.
Oh, they're whacking out a lot of houses down
Is this
there.
an Andres building?
Yeah, yeah, but
Not
I
in the
mean,
water, but in that area.
right, but the 65,000 you're talking about new growth. When we have our fall special before they set the tax rate, we can actually look at that number, and if it's gonna be 130 or 140 or 150, we can actually, when we look at the fall town meeting, we can actually appropriate onto the tax rate, like we did last year.
Onto the water rate.
No, I'm talking about appropriations. You know, if we wanna do the firearms, we wanna do something else.
You can use this because
You can use it because you know it's already there, and you can appropriate it because you have room in the levy. Now, Jake was supposed to be spending us, he didn't send it to us yet. I mentioned last week, this building uses 2,700 gallons of water. That's less than the base for a quarter for the whole year. Senior center uses nothing, fire department uses nothing, Rochester building uses nothing. DPW on Stevens Road uses a lot in the wintertime. That would actually be snow and ice removal supplies.
Yeah.
They wouldn't get a tax rate. Because they're using that to make brine.
And we're also paying insurance, the Lindy, which, you know, kind of in my mind offsets.
We're
that a
paying the
little bit.
insurance, Worcester County retirement, which is a lot of money, but still, if we have the municipal water usage, it's only gonna be 8 or 10 grand, but I mean, at least it's another 8 or 10 grand, like the meals tax, 8 or 10 is 8 or 10. Okay, now looking back at the solid waste, when that became an enterprise fund, I was on finance, and I said, how come the municipal buildings aren't paying that? We should be paying the minimum, the usage for the various buildings.
Yep.
Whether or not we buy the bags, that's another discussion, but why aren't we buying the bags? Okay, because when we get the new quote from Republic, and we see what, Wheelbridge is gonna do, if at some point in time we decide we're out of the trash business, we're gonna need that line item anyway. So, because it's an enterprise fund, we should be taking out of one envelope and putting it into another envelope, just for clarity's sake.
I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that. It won't make, it's not gonna take 400 down to 300, but it'll.
But it is, if the municipalities are paying X. Even if you double the municipal water rate, you're still paying X, it puts it on the tax rate, so that everybody's paying for.
Everybody is paying, even if you're not on the oil system, you're paying for the use in the shared buildings, if you will. Yeah, I think you already are because of the insurance and whatnot anyway,
Right.
but if you wanted to go more than that, we could.
I'm an advocate of the municipality contributing to the, enterprise fund, because it's an enterprise fund, you should be paying for it.
Yep, I don't disagree with it.
In both cases.
I don't disagree
You know,
with it.
they're both enterprise funds, you know, having the municipalities not pay anything. You know, we're not gonna pay the same as a restaurant or a commercial
Or
building.
maybe we'd pay more if we had, I mean, if we had extra money, we could pay more, and, you know, we talked
No,
about
it should be a
that, too.
fixed rate. What I was proposing, instead of reading the meters, come up with a above average and pay a fixed amount, that way we can budget it. See what I'm saying? So like this building, we're using below the minimum. And if the fixed rate becomes, the base rate becomes 400, your municipal rate would be 800 for the year, for this building period. Done.
Yep.
Same thing for Hodgkin, same thing for the fire department, same thing for the.
See now how much to plan on for the year, I don't disagree
Right,
with
but
that.
it'd be 8, and you do it for the highway barn, you do it for the Stevens Road, you do it for, fire department, you do it for Hodgkins, and you do it for Tier. But that's 5 buildings at $800 a piece, that's $4,000.
Yep.
It's not a lot of money, but at least you're contributing. Now, when Stevens Road goes above because of, mixing the brine, whatever above is gonna be for snow and ice removal supplies anyway. So it's not a levy limit.
Yeah. So that one quarter in January, February, March, they go above the limit.
No, they actually do it from October on because it's brine, it's not so much that it's snow, they're putting it down in anticipation of ice or
Yeah.
anticipation of snow.
Yep.
It's a fixed amount, so we could budget the 4,000, which is a drop in the bucket.
Yep.
I'm sorry, it wouldn't be 4,000, it would be 16,000, because
Oh, you're saying per quarter?
Yeah, so if the base rate is 400 for the water users,
Yep.
make the base rate 800 for the municipality users, that would generate another $16,000, it would be 16,000 on the tax rate. And then over and above that, for the snow and ice removal, it would be a snow and ice removal supply.
Whatever that ends up being. Yep, I have no issue with that.
Right.
But that would be fiscal 28 budgets, not 27 at this point. Right, because the FinCom isn't necessarily ready.
We can do that in October, November.
Okay. We made a change last year, we could make another change later in the year.
Well, I mean, it's not a lot of money on the tax rate, but it's more on the tax rate and less on water. I mean, 16 grand ain't gonna match up to 1.6 million, but
No.
1%'s 1%.
It helps with people who don't pay it, you know what I mean? It helps take out some of the curse handed. I'll make a motion. 7:45. 7:40?
10 o'clock tomorrow.
So, we need to be in Shirley at, yes, at, hold on a second, at 10:30.
Ceremony for Jake.
Yes.
Yeah, and Shirley.
Yep, we got Shirley, yeah. It's, 10:30 to 11 registration, so just plan on getting there right around then.
So I'll be there at 10. But I have a doctor's appointment, I believe.
Oh, yeah, no worries, yeah. I did, I made a motion.
That's all I heard, was I made a motion. Second. What's the motion?
It was to adjourn, 7:42?
All those in favor?
Aye.